One of the biggest changes to the F1 rulebook has come into play this year. It sparked a lot of debate and has already changed the outcome of races in the season so far. Let's take a look at some of these changes and explore the new rule behind them. First up, F1 is incredible. Why change it? So the biggest question has to be the reasoning behind the rulebook change. Last season had one of the best conclusions in the history of F1 racing, and if anything, the interest in F1 is at an all-time high. Then why change something that's working so well? Well, let's try to take a look at the last few years rather than just the last one. Lewis Hamilton had won 6 of the last 7 F1 championships, and Mercedes had won 7 of the last 7 before Red Bull and Max Verstappen broke their stronghold. The cars in those years, powered by 1.6-liter V6 turbo hybrid power plants, were the fastest we've ever seen in F1. Under the old set of rules, there was way too much aerodynamic freedom for the teams to widen the winning gap. See, the thing is, it's not about the cars being fast, it's about how they're fast. The maximum speed of F1 cars is 350 kilometers an hour, same as MotoGP, yet Hamilton's F1 pole position lap last November in Qatar was 1 minute 20.8 seconds faster than Jorge Martin's MotoGP pole on a Ducati. How? Because of the corner speed and downforce. The what? Allow us to explain. In 2021, F1 cars had complex aerodynamic devices that helped them hug the road at a higher velocity, producing lateral G-forces, like fighter pilots experience. It was impressive, but it came at a cost, and the cost was turbulent air splashing out of the path of a rival. This meant that the rival cars had no chance of following close behind, let alone overtaking. In easier words, that meant there was no space for competition, and the one who started well would go on to win the entire race. For the sake of the spectacle, something had to change. So what's changing? In just 2 words, a lot. Let's talk about the visible changes first. The new front wing, for instance, has become simpler and slightly higher than before. It features taller end plates, meaning that the ends are raised. The rear wings have also changed. They're curved at the tips and are much thinner than before, making sure that the car is less sensitive to turbulence created by the car in front. Wheels have also been modified by increasing the size to 45 centimeters or 18 inches from last year's 33 centimeters or 13-inch rims, and feature low-profile tires rather than fatter tires. As for what you can't see, the car's floor plays the most crucial part in the changes. So with the changes, the nose of the car has become more pronounced and higher, helping direct the air beneath it with 2 underfloor tunnels that create the phenomenon called the ground effect. These tunnels are narrow and cause the air to rush through them, creating a low pressure that helps suck the car to the track, which is the downforce, basically. However, the change means that the air will pass beneath the car instead of being directed over the top and will be safer in the corners. Have the changes worked so far? Since their debut in Spain for preseason testing, the cars have been the subject of much intrigue, as expected. Charles Leclerc, the current leader in the 2022 championship, explained how it was easier to follow a rival's car, but pointed out that from 3 seconds to 1 second, the change works, but it doesn't work from 1 second to 5/10 of a second. Either way, we'd say that's a thumbs up from Leclerc. As per engineers and analysts, the lap times will be 2 seconds slower on average when compared to last season. Cars are expected to be faster on the straights, but much heavier too, due to the larger wheels and tires. And we've seen exactly that in the first few races of the year. Daniel Ricciardo also noticed that the cars will take some getting used to, and was impressed with the high-speed corners. He believes that overtaking will be much more achievable with these changes, but it'll be mostly down to the skill of the driver rather than just the car. He too believes that he can live with the changes, even though the slow-speed corners are clumsier. That's another thumbs up as far as we're concerned. One unforeseen consequence, though, has been the vantage point for the drivers. The cars are much flatter, and as Ricciardo said, they lack the rake to the point where it rises up, helping the drivers look, and that means the visibility isn't great. As a result, racing on some tracks will be more challenging, particularly in Belgium and Japan. How much can the teams innovate? While the rules are compulsory for each team to follow, the areas where bodywork parameters aren't compulsory will be the rooms for maneuvering for each team. Before every race, the teams are supposed to share their computer data on car developments with sports governing body, the FIA, and they have to pass the cars for them to race. That doesn't mean teams can't change stuff. For example, the side pods. They're part of the side bodywork of F1 cars and are attached to the floor sitting behind the front wheel and beneath the driver's head in a side-on view. The purpose of each side pod is to cool the engine down, but in F1, they're used for aerodynamic effects and an increasing corner speed. So Red Bull ran with bigger side pods sitting on top of a jagged floor, and Mercedes used a tightly packaged side pod in their final preseason test in Bahrain. Ferrari, on the other hand, went extremely on the opposite side, featuring large side pods, and McLaren has a tight bodywork package. This shows there's definitely room for innovation, and that's not being taken away from the teams, as they look to gain the edge over their rivals. Of course, every car that finishes in Abu Dhabi will look much different from the one that started in Bahrain. The plan is for each team to use a different idea to get probably the same lap time, how the cars will suit selected drivers. Let's take a look at how the changes will suit some of the drivers. First, we have Max Verstappen and Red Bull. Whenever Verstappen finishes a race in 2022, he wins it. He turned heads early on in the preseason testing too, as he had a much gentler and smoother style compared to the year before. The defending champion was early on the brakes, less aggressive on the throttle, and so far, far, it seems the changes have suited him, but he's still getting used to them. Next is Daniel Ricciardo for McLaren. Ricciardo's arguably the best overtaker in the sport, and at 32, having a car that gives him the chance to drive to his strengths will definitely help him. As he mentioned himself, he likes the car and believes the changes have been good. Again, it's a matter how fast he can adapt to the change. Now, Valtteri Bottas for Alfa Romeo. Tougher for Bottas at Alfa Romeo, as he remained in the shade at Mercedes for the past few seasons by Hamilton, but the Finnish driver has managed to put 30 points on board already, just 6 behind Hamilton's and 5 behind Norris. Passing isn't exactly as strong a suit, so he's one of those racers who won't be too thrilled with the changes. And next is Sebastian Vettel for Aston Martin. Vettel's legacy is one of the greatest in the sport, but he's not great when he's buried in the pack, which he'll be for Aston Martin. His racecraft isn't extraordinary, and we suspect he'll struggle, as he's a great driver, but not a great racer. Will the competitive order change? The last 12 F1 championships have been won by Red Bull or Mercedes. Ferrari, on the other hand, the most famous name in the sport, is without a championship since 2007. However, they'd be thrilled with the changes, because had the rules remained the same for this year, it would have been another two-horse race between Red Bull and Mercedes. The preseason testing indicated that both McLaren and Ferrari have narrowed the gap on the other two dominant teams, and the midfield sides like Alpine, AlphaTauri, and Aston Martin will compete for the 5th spot. They aren't likely to move past Mercedes, even if Hamilton's looked a little shaky. It'll be super tough for the likes of Haas and Alfa Romeo to compete with the rest of the pack. Haas is facing a financial shortage after it severed ties with its major Russian sponsor and lacked the money to develop its car. Alfa Romeo is a rather underwhelming duo of Mercedes cast-off Bottas and Chinese rookie Zhou Guanyu. Either way though, this is a season spread over 23 races, the most in the sport's 7-decade history, and as we know, anything is possible in this sport. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen threatened to pull away from the rest of the pack, but things might change fairly quickly. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think the changes in F1 have leveled the playing field? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one!